Hello everyone, it's Wednesday. That means it's time for Writer Chat with me, Natalie Wright. And this week I have a very fun chat via Skype with author extraordinaire Joanna Penn. Joanna is the author of 2 books in the Arcane series. The first, Pentacost, came out last year in 2011, and this year her newest release is Prophecy. And so without further ado, here is my Skype chat with author Joanna Penn. Welcoming Joanna via Skype. And Joanna, you're in London, correct?
Indeed.
Okay, awesome. For our Writer Chat Wednesday. And so, Joanna, you recently released your second novel in the Arcane series. The first one was Pentacost, that came out last year. And the newest one is Prophecy. So, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. So I'm very excited about Prophecy, and I mean the basic premise is the prophecy from Revelation about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, which I think most people know about.
Right.
And the pale horse is death, and basically death is out to kill a quarter of the world. So I started with that idea, and then I was like, well, how do you actually kill a quarter of the world? Because it's a good premise. And I love weaving in historical details. So this uses a curse in the Devil's Bible, which is this ancient manuscript, and there's a curse that's going to go out to the world. And then I've got this big sort of drug company that are using eugenics and sort of behavioural psychology to try and sort of enact change from that direction. So that's all going on, and then we've got our heroine, Morgan Sierra, who's working with an Arcane agency, a secret British government agency specialising in sort of paranormal, religious, psychological aspects, secrets, and they have to stop the bad guys before it's too late, save the world. You know, it's an action-adventure romp and a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely a lot of fun. And, you know, the protagonist of your series, Morgan Sierra, now she is probably one of my favorite parts of it because, you know, she is no wimpy girl. So, you know, tell me a little bit about her and then also your inspirations for her, because she's a very multifaceted character. You know, she's a very intelligent woman, but she's also got this military background. So how did you come up with Morgan Sierra?
Well, I think for me, you know, she's kind of that alter ego, and from your excitement, I think, you know, those of us who've worked in sort of office jobs, I think we have this sort of fantasy, perhaps, of being Angelina Jolie in Lara Croft. Which
right.
Is, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's exactly. So much fun, you know, kick-ass, but smart and sexy, but can thump a guy, you know, with her elbow. And
right.
You know, so I wanted to have that kind of character, but then I also wanted to bring in parts of my own knowledge, because I think as writers we do have to bring in something that's, you know, part of ourselves. So I have degrees in psychology and religion, so she is a Oxford University psychologist who then goes to work for this secret agency. So, and then Israel, I've been to Israel a lot of times, and I wanted to weave that into the background, because also Israel itself is such a religious place full of, you know, Islam, Christianity and Judaism, so it brings a lot of story with it.
Right.
So yeah, Morgan is sort of that alter ego fantasy figure who I would love to be, really.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like I said, I think in my review I said, you know, she can kick a guy in the face, but she looks great in a cocktail dress, you know. So,
and I don't look that good in a cocktail dress.
Me neither, especially with one cut up as far as hers were. But, well, and you know, Jake. So Jake is her haughty partner. And so I had a question. Do you have any kind of a real life inspiration for Jake?
Well, it's kind of David Boreanaz, you know, from Bones and Angel, or with perhaps a touch of the guy, you know, who Hugh Jackman.
Yes.
Wolverine.
I could totally see Hugh Jackman in this role. Absolutely.
So it's funny you ask that, because I do have pictures of them in my research, so I know kind of what they look like. And also for the movie, Angelina's getting a little old now, but, you know.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, but that's totally funny because I could totally picture the two of them in those roles. So that's great. You know, I think you really captured that. Well, then we have, and I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Is it Thanatos?
I say Thanatos. But
Thanatos, okay. And it sounds so much better when you say it. It's the nefarious organization that Morgan is battling in both of the first two books. So I was wondering too, that organization, or do you have any real life organizations you've based that on, or is this just totally a creation of your own imagination?
Well, Thanatos is actually a Greek word meaning death, and it's also Sigmund Freud, and I do a lot of psychology. Sigmund Freud had it as one of his sort of instincts, the death instinct. So I wanted to bring that sort of cultish atmosphere to the books, and as you know, there's like a sacrifice scene, sort of dark, not very nice people really. And I guess when we talk about genetic modification and killing lots of people, you do think of Hitler and Stalin and Pol Pot and big nasty names of history. So I wanted to make it more sanitized and turn it into the kind of drug company that could be working for health, and also make it almost understandable, because I mean they want to the planet is overpopulated, clearly,
right.
We know this, and we should be trying to improve the human race in general. Right. But unfortunately, these things can obviously be turned into really nasty aspects. So I wanted to take something that everyone could go, oh, that's almost believable, and make it sort of super bad. So I guess maybe they do exist, but we don't really want to know about it.
Right. It occurred to me this morning as I was thinking about this, have you read Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you should check it out, because there's a sort of a similar thing where they use food, like, quote, healthy food, but it's packed full of junk and it's really making people sick. So you should check it out. You'd probably like it. It's funny. But it's a humorous look at the apocalypse. And yours isn't really humorous. It's more like realistic. Yeah. So, well, I really enjoy the aspects of your books where you're talking about there's so much religious iconography and symbolism and the art. And I guess maybe my art history background, I'm really pulled to those aspects in all these historic places. So how much time does it take you to research your books? Because there's a lot packed in there,
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I guess it's always been my interest. So, I'm 36, so I've probably spent the last 20 years immersed in religion, psychology, art history. I go, whenever I go to a new place, I'm in the art galleries, the museums, and I mean, a lot of the ideas I have are based on ideas that have been burning away for years. So for me, for prophecy, for example, I went to an exhibition in the year 2000. On the apocalypse, and I saw the Dürer woodcuts. Then I saw the Blake pictures, John Martin's images. All of that is in the book, obviously, as you know.
Right.
All of that I saw, 12 years ago. And then when I got the idea for the apocalypse, I thought, oh, I'll go and get that book out of the library, the catalogue, and use that as an idea. And of course, that came in strongly. And then. I guess I just use a lot, and then I take that idea and I spin off from there. So I didn't know about the Devil's Bible, but I just watched a documentary on the National Geographic Channel or something, and there it was. And it was like, wow. But then I call it synchronicity, that thing that happens, and Carl Jung, it happens when you think of an idea and then you find it's connected. So I wanted to use Sedlec, which is the bone church, and I wanted to use the Devil's Bible, and then I found out that it actually had been stored there in the 16th century, and I was like, whoa, that's just scary. And it was only a few hundred miles from where Dürer lived. So that was like, it just fitted in. So I love the fact that it's almost not made up.
Right, exactly. And that comes through in your book, absolutely. It definitely feels like it could really happen, that these things really did fit together. So, yeah,
maybe
maybe they do. Right. Yeah, totally cool. Oh, there was this other piece in your novel, too. I had heard about the God Helmet. Yes. So I had watched a show, I think it was on Through the Wormhole or something with Morgan Freeman. And so when I read that in your book, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's also another very interesting piece of science that you threw in there. So.
Yeah, well, pretty much everything in there is real. I've just twisted it a little bit. And
Right.
the God helmet, which if people don't know, it's like it can stimulate your temporal lobe, and then you have visions of God or the devil and things. That's like crazy. I'd love to try it myself.
I'm a little afraid to try it, but it does sound interesting. So you also go to your characters in your books travel all around. So we're moving quickly with Morgan, Sierra, and Jake. And I wondered if you've been to all of the places that you write about.
Well, I've been to a lot of them, but you can tell I've used up a lot of places already because I move around so much.
Right.
But yeah, I love to travel, and I mean, much of Prophecy was inspired by a trip to Paris with the Paris catacombs, and then the Louvre, and places there. But I haven't been to Sedlec or Palermo, the Mummy place. I want to go to the Mummy place. That's awesome. But as I said, I've been to Jerusalem a lot. But then I use Flickr a lot.
Oh, okay.
For research, because Flickr's like personal photos and kind of weird bad focus shots and stuff like that, so you get really the back view of things, whereas the official websites are all kind of official. So I do that, but I actually get story ideas from places. So like, you're in Arizona, right? And in the first book, I blow up the biosphere, and I was there in 1995, but that stuck in my head was like, I want to blow up the biosphere. So yeah, I love travelling, and I actually have story ideas around places I want to go to, because of course now it's tax deductible. It has to be done.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Well, it feels very much like you have been there. So.
Yeah, and I also think that setting is important for symbolism. So, opening at the Western Wall, a guy throws himself off the Western Wall in Jerusalem. That's the holiest place in the world for Jews. And if someone commits suicide, and their blood splatters over the earth there, that's just so symbolic. So I want to bring in the symbolism of place as well as the story.
Right. Well, you have some amazing scenes too that are not for the faint of heart, and so you're not afraid you don't sanitize your thriller, and so but I enjoyed that, because again, it feels more realistic, and your opening scenes definitely pull you in. Well, Joanna, I'm interested too in hearing a little bit about your writing process. So you've talked about it a little bit. It sounds like you really get inspiration from places that you've been, and you really put a lot of your lifelong work into your fiction. Could you tell us a little bit more about your writing process? How do you get from idea to a finished novel?
Right. Well, I guess right now I'm writing the third one, which is called Exodus. So it's kind of happening again. And I guess the first two I really didn't know, but now I feel like the process is more set, which is I have the idea. So with Exodus, it's going to be around the Ark of the Covenant, which is another area I love. So I do a whole load of research. So I've done that now. I'd spend, a few weeks or months, depending on, how long it is, thinking about that, brainstorming. So I've got pages of notes printed out here. Then I come up with places and scenes. So I'm like, okay, so Ethiopia, where the Ark might be, all the different places where the Ark might be, for example.
Okay.
Which is cool. And then basically, I've got my characters because I'm writing a series. So although I won't mention, no spoilers in this one, but of course we've got some new characters coming in the third book. Then I write scenes. So I'm basically an outliner. So I've outlined maybe 30 scenes. Then I go into writing, and often, as you know, things happen as you're writing.
Right.
And then I just add layers. So a lot of the art and architecture are layers that I add after I've done the first draft of plot. I come back and I go, how can I make that more of a evocative scene? Right. Oh, and then I have two editors, so I make sure I get good editing.
Awesome. So this kind of goes into the next thing that I was going to ask you about, which is where we're going with the Arcane series. So I'm very excited to learn that you've got a third one underway. So Exodus, that sounds really intriguing. Do you see this? We know there's going to be a third. Are there more after that? Is this going to be a series that could be 5, 6, 7 books or more?
Well, at the moment I'm thinking, I like 7 as it's a kind of symbolic number.
Yeah.
But basically, when I came up with Arcane, I really wanted to build a series that goes on. So I look at someone like Kathy Reichs, you know, Patricia Cornwell, not that I'm in the medical forensic side, but I mean, Patricia Cornwell has like 26 books in her series. I don't know whether I'll get that far, but her readers stick with her over time, and I wanted to have a big enough idea that I could go on. So Arcane is, you know, looking at religious knowledge and interesting aspects of mystery. That can go on for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So I do. I have like 7. You know, the one after Exodus may well be about the Holy Grail. It might be about Spain and Morgan's father, who was Spanish, a Spanish Jew. And there's a lot about Spain that I love. That's fascinating historically. So there's so much I want to do with it. But now, you know, we have so many ideas and so many books I want to write.
Exactly. So little time to finish, you know. Well, that's great. So a couple more things. Pentacost and Prophecy are both self-published. And so I wonder if you could tell our listeners a little bit about your path to publication. Was this something that you sought traditional publishing first, or did you just go straight into self-publication without a thought towards the other?
Well, you know, I think like many people, I always did want the big book deal, you know, the sort of on all the bookshelves all over the world, fame and fortune. But when you actually learn about the business, you realise this is probably a bit of a pipe dream. And the best way to go about it, I thought, was by proving that I can write and that I have an audience and that I can sell. So I thought by self-publishing first and coming up with, you know, evidence of these things, I am far more likely to get a better deal than if I went cap in hand to publishers saying, "Help me, I'm a new author." Right. So I really believe in empowerment of the individual, which I know you do too. So I thought, well, I'd also learnt a lot about it, so I thought, well, I'll do this first and then we'll see what happens. I certainly am very pro-publishing in all of its forms, and I would be interested in the right kind of deal, but I'm doing quite well at the moment. Prophecy came in the other day in the action adventure list above Lee Child, which I was quite excited. I've got the screen print.
Yes.
It was like an hour, I think, but it was still there.
Yeah. Those are very fun moments when that happens,
exactly.
You know.
So we know we can do it ourselves, and I think going to a publisher with evidence of sales and an audience is really important.
Yeah. I think excellent advice, excellent advice. Well, you also have really built an audience through your blog. You have one of the top writer blogs on the planet. Always great information, and if any of you listening to this have not checked out Joanna's blog, you must. And sign up to get her regular updates, because truly they are very helpful tips. I've learned a lot from you. And because you seem to have your finger on the pulse of publishing, I wanted to know, what are your thoughts about what's coming up? Do you have any ideas about what we're going to see maybe the next 12 to 18 months, or anything you're looking forward to?
Well, it's a big time in publishing, and certainly what we've seen in the last few weeks. We're talking at the beginning of February 2012, we should say. And right now, Barnes & Noble has just said they are not going to stock Amazon's books. So, and Amazon a few months ago launched KDP Select, which encourages authors to be exclusive to Amazon. So what we can see is the kind of Amazon getting quite, you know, strategic about what they're doing.
Right.
Well, they always are. And so I think it will be interesting to see what happens. In England, we have bookstores that are really in trouble, like you did in America, but they are smaller, obviously, and people have said perhaps Amazon will buy a print chain in order to have a shop front, because a lot of people buy books because they've seen them on the shelves.
Right.
So that's an interesting thought. Of course, the rise of ebooks continues, and the other thing people are talking about is the subscription model. So people join up. At the moment, Americans can join Amazon Prime and get free Kindle lending, for example. People think that that will become a way of content, you know, or people might even subscribe to an author and get all of their stuff ongoing by paying a monthly fee or whatever. So those are some of the things. I think we will see Amazon, if people don't know, Amazon already have publishing imprints. They are publishing physical books.
Right.
So I think we'll see them continue to do that. And yeah, I think there's a big shake-up. I think all the excitement around indie, John Locke and Amanda Hocking, is probably gone away, as in terms of now it's normal to be successful.
Right. Right.
So yeah, it's good. And also, of course, this year Pottermore will launch, which is J.K. Rowling's ebook.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see if any other authors, big-name authors, follow her with that.
It's sort of hard to imagine a big author like a Stephen King or Joe Rowling, not doing that, because if you have the book in the e-format, I just don't understand why you need the publisher.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's about rights.
Yeah.
Joe Rowling didn't sell her ebook rights.
Another evidence of her brilliance.
I think it was just before that time.
Right. But yeah, maybe so. Exactly. Now I'm not sure you could get a contract.
No, I don't think you could. Definitely.
Yeah. So, Joanna, my last question for you is: do you have any exciting news for us? You kind of you alluded to the fact you're working on Exodus, which is very exciting. Anything else going on that you want to share?
Yes, so I am. On the fiction, I'm writing Exodus, and I also have another book which is like a different type of thriller, which will be more of maybe even a going paranormal. I'm kind of almost in paranormal, but not quite. So I might jump over the fence. But I'm also excitingly, I don't know if your listeners know about New York Times bestselling author C.J. Lyons, who recently hit #2. I'm working with her on a series called Pro Writer, which is going to be some courses, and I'm very excited because I'm like, yay, I'm working with a New York Times bestseller, and I'm learning so much, that I'm really excited about that. So that's a project. So I guess I think we can all just learn so much from each other, and it's brilliant that we can all share like this.
Absolutely.
And on blogs, and it's a really exciting time in publishing.
It is. I think if people are willing to seize the day, it is definitely a very exciting time.
Yeah.
So your work with C.J. Lyons, will people be able to learn more about that on your blog?
Yes, that's a very good point. You can actually go to C.J. Lyons' website, cjlyons.net/novel academy.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can sign up there, and that's not so official yet. It's a kind of little what I'm working on. So, but that will be coming out probably April. So exciting times. And she sold. This is it, right? She sold 230,000 copies in 3 weeks. Yeah. So I'm like, I want to know how to do that, please.
Yeah, I think we all want to know. Yeah, definitely.
This is the kind of thing I'm like, I thought I was doing all right with like 17,000, and then I'm like,
No, you are doing all right with 17,000. Yeah, most people understand. Over 95% of authors will never sell more than 5,000 copies of their book. Most of them sell under 5. It's around 2, I think, is the average that a first-time author can expect. So if you're a self-published author selling 17,000, I think you're successful. So that's pretty darn good. Yeah, that's pretty darn good. Well, Joanna, it has been so much fun. On my blog post with this video, we'll have all the dobby-doo of your links and all of that, and so we'll definitely get all that from you. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come and chat with me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And very nice meeting you. All right. Thanks, Joanna.
Thank you.
Bye.